Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At Home, the series where I get a chance to talk to friends and colleagues and just others out there who have been dealing with these things through the pandemic in the last year, in new and different ways than myself or you have. And one of my favorite parts about doing this show over the last year is getting a chance to talk to people from all over the country, the world in some cases, about such diverse experiences with what it means to be at home all of the time, and those parts of our lives that either personal or professional that allowed us to interact directly with other human beings had to change dramatically in most every case. That is different, and especially here in the States, the level in which you can interact with people in person is different in different parts of the country. And I think my guest today has a unique perspective on that based on where she lives. And what I find so interesting about what our conversation I think is going to entail is just talking about how the view in the culture and our different states and different coasts of the United States really shapes what this pandemic looks like, to each of us. Because here I live in California. I'm in the East Bay, so kind of the general San Francisco Bay Area, and how things look to my family and I and our neighbors and our friends here, I'm sure is different. It's similar in some ways, but it's also different than the East Coast or the center of our country. So rather than going too far off on that on my own, I'd love to introduce my guest today, and I'm just going to bring her on because she can do a much better job of introducing herself than I possibly can. Jax, it is awesome to have you on the show.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be a guest and to share my story with your population. So let's dive in. And what's your first? Where are we starting?
Well, first off, why don't you introduce yourself? I mean, where are you from? What do you do? What are your hobbies? Do you like long walks on the beach? I mean, I don't know. Let's tell the
So
audience about yourself.
my name is Jax Adele Ventura. I live in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, where I am a marketing and communication specialist at a state-owned and operated career and technical high school. It's a high school. That's a lot of words, I know, to say that we're a career and technical education high school. Um, I love my job because I get to work with high school students and provide opportunities for them to pursue not high school, college. I'm really doing bad at this, guys. Sorry, I'm nervous. Let's shake this off.
It's
Okay.
all good.
Okay, so I help them first off learn about the school and the fact that they can apply because it's free, it's state owned and operated. But then once they're there, I help them throughout their education as like a concierge because I'm marketing and communications. I do the morning announcements every morning and I tell everyone to have a good day. And I then also help them as they graduate with I am, like, totally butchering this, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It's
Because like
I'm glad we're doing this way because your interaction right now is I think really indicative of like what it means to sort of adapt to these things that we've been dealing with for the last year. Like, I don't know exactly how things were for you like last April, but you've been doing a lot more video. We're both part of the same live streaming group, and for anyone who's watching, I've said this before, a number of my guests have been a part of the same live streaming group that Jax and I are both a part of. And I think it's awesome because I've watched you put more content out there and do more things. It looks like you've kind of been pushing your own boundaries, but it's tough because this is new for most all of us doing these things. So yeah, don't even worry about it. Like, this is just, we're all kind of still even a year into this, getting used to what it's like to be on camera, as a metaphor for just being in something different that we've never experienced before.
yeah, so I guess, where I'm struggling is the fact that, like, I don't have the opportunity to introduce myself very often, and I'm out of practice because as a marketing specialist, I am typically in front of the public on a regular basis telling them about
Yeah.
my school and inviting them to come and learn more. And so I feel like I'm doing a very poor job in communicating that, and I don't want to look bad on camera.
No.
But aside from that, how have we adapted? So initially, a year ago, schools were asked to stay home, and that included myself. And no one was in the building. We were all at home. We were all remote learning and remote working as an entire school district because there's only one school in our school district. And so like everyone's at home. Our school was one of the lucky schools. We figured out a plan to bring back kids at 25% and 50% in hybrid models because the in-person learning is so important to the career and technical education that they're receiving while they're with us. Okay, if they're not with those instructors and they're not able to have that in person on the machine, the lathe in machine technology, or the printing press in graphics and interactive media, all these like physical trades, if they're not there to have that training, they can't get their certifications for them to then go on to apply for jobs or to go to college or to a trade school, whatever they choose to do. Because we also help them with SATs. We have very strong academics. It's a well-rounded school. So like we figured out a way to get kids in, but we still have days where we are remote learning with the kids. And I'm not a teacher. So because I'm not a teacher, I don't get to hang out with everyone all the time on Zoom. So I'm still working what feels like remotely, even though I'm in the building because I'm just in my room, social distancing from everyone else in the school who is 6 feet apart and in a very strict schedule. There's no room in the school schedule anymore for kids to be in the hall. They're in the hall for passing time and then they're back in their rooms and their teachers have already sprayed down the desks and they have assigned seats. These are the ways we're able to contact trace and protect ourselves within the school with these kinds of like regimented schedules when they're in the building. But outside the building, it's the Wild West. Okay.
Yeah.
It's when we don't have them with us, it's not the same.
It's wow. You know what? You just brought up a whole like can of worms that like different things I want to ask you about. But something that just struck me really hard that you were talking about is, I've heard of other education systems. I've read about other education systems. I don't have first-hand knowledge until you of like what those educators or administrators in the school physically have done to make sure that where they can bring kids back in locations like yours, that it's safe enough in your area to be able to have a plan, or there's so much of a necessity to have a plan to bring certain kids back to school that you have that. But what it
Mm-hmm.
struck me is every time you hear those stories, it's always focused on the students, as rightly so. That it's really hard on them, not just for their learning, but their social development, to not be able to be in contact with other people, their friends, their colleagues, do collaborative interaction, stay around them for any length of time, etc. What you just said though, and it really dawned on me, is I didn't put together previously. I know lots of people working from home because my entire company is working from home, and a lot of them are used to that. But you see the effects of it too. But I had never really put the two things together. It's almost worse, and I don't mean to be like a downer, but it's almost, I could see how it could almost be harder for someone like you who has to be in the same building as the people that you typically interact with, and you cannot interact with them because of safety reasons, but you have to still be around it and hear it. It's almost like you're being quarantined around people and you can never talk to those people, and that's
Right.
I don't well
Well,
like put it in like
I
a negative
can
rabbit hole,
still
but I could
talk to people.
well,
I can
but you
still,
know what I
yeah,
mean.
I still have the phone lines. I do have the ability to
Sure.
go into certain rooms, but again, I try to
Yeah.
limit my contacts so in case that something happens. But we've been very lucky. There have been no in school contacts
Oh,
like
that's good.
spreads. All anybody who's gotten it has been outside of
Hmm.
the school is where the transmission has occurred. So we've been very lucky in those contexts. But yeah, it's isolating. And then I am a social person. I don't know if you've picked up on that from knowing
A
me.
little bit, yeah, a
And
little
so yeah,
bit.
so like I've been coping as well as I could by getting more engaged in this live streaming community that I know you're a part of and I'm trying to like break into. And it's a great outlet for a person who's social, but it's still not a replacement for real social interaction.
Yeah,
And
that's so true.
you know, it
It's
gets, I mean, we're Rhode Island. It's cold a lot. You're in sunny California, and you've got a pandemic, but you've also got sunlight.
that is
Okay, we
true.
don't have the sunlight
That is true. I
all the
have the ability to
time.
get
It's
some
like we're
vitamin D when I
snowing.
step outside for a few minutes. That is true.
Yes, and as we're speaking right now, it's snowing, and I've been instructed to work from home tomorrow so that I don't have to drive in and through the snow.
Yeah.
So it's just like, because the kids are on vacation right now,
Yeah. Well,
there's
you're
no one in the
taking
building.
I mean, your outward mannerisms and behavior on this, it like seem to like indicate that you're taking this, I don't want to say in stride, but with a lot better sense of humor or amount of humor than probably a lot of people are feeling like. And people probably would watch this and think to themselves like, man, I just wish I could, be adapting to this the way that Jax is, because it's really easy. And I've talked to a few people like this where it's really easy to fall in that trap of like, but all I can see in front of me is, it's one thing, like you said, to be here in the Bay Area where, yeah, it might have been 40 degrees outside when I took my son to school, but it's still sunny. The sun still rose and I can see it, as opposed to it's dumping snow and there's shoveling going on and all that jazz. Like, none of that is really conducive to making you feel positive or motivated on a daily basis, let alone not being able to really physically interact with people too much. Um,
Yeah. And
I,
to try to motivate other people too.
Yeah. So, because and I guess actually that's a really interesting question to bring up is in your role and what you do for the school and the education system overall, in what you do, how have you found ways to like modify your behavior, your work to continue to be able to be, to be effective at what you do and also help keep yourself kind of inspired and motivated on a regular basis?
So luckily, video is a great communication tool. And I went to school and became an editor before I ended up to the point I'm at now. Not on air personality stuff, but an editor. So when the pandemic happened and we are forced to face these challenges, the best tool that I have found to work with the parents and students and even the teachers is to utilize video. That is like, if it's for teachers, I'm recording a tutorial for them on how I need them to set up their calendars so parents can book appointments with them for parent teacher conferences. It's making a video to explain to the parents how to access those calendars and book those appointments for parent teacher conference. And it's, making videos that make the kids chuckle and just trying to use video as not only instructional, but like we had a student who just scored his 1000th point in a basketball, and that's a milestone in your career of as a high school student. And so to be able to have that video and to share it on social media, on our website, to our community, it's a great tool. It's no substitute from having a pep rally
Mm-hmm.
and having everyone in that room screaming their heads off, jumping up and down and going nuts because right now our basketball team is undefeated and going to
Nice.
the finals.
Big high
Okay.
fives.
And so I'm faced with the decision of, do I just allow the people who are live streaming it to live stream it, or do I get special permission to be able to go there and do my own like pictures and video, because I am a shutterbug in school during normal time. Like when things are happening, that's how I get pictures for whether it's social media, or now I'm the yearbook advisor, for the yearbook. It's just I can't take those pictures. They're not this. It's not the same. There's no pep rally. I've had a Valentine's Day party and like a Halloween party for them, and it's on Zoom, and it's not the same. You try to make things, but it's not the same.
It really isn't. It really isn't. But
Yeah.
you bring up a good point because you have to find a way to still. At least the connection piece I think is important, but I think another part of
Mhm.
it that is also important is you have to kind of you have to be okay with giving a bit of yourself, especially in the type of role that you have. You specifically is like you have to be okay with giving a part of yourself to the community that you're working with so that they can see you, because a big part of it is they need to be able to see each other, but they can kind of do that in class. And then you kind of being a representative of these other things that help them, being able to put your face or other administrators' face or other people's face
Mhm.
out there in a video format, either on a Facebook page or like you said, maybe in an email or YouTube or whatever the form, whatever the medium is.
Mhm.
But putting yourself out there so they can see see you and realize you're not gone. Like you're still there, you're still doing the things, even if they don't get to see you in the hallway or talk to you every day or
Yep,
you're
yep.
snapping a picture. They still know that you are there and you're producing a regular thing that keeps them connected with you, which is subtle for them, but it helps them. But it also helps you too because you know that like, look, I'm not getting to see this person on a regular basis, but at least I know I'm putting this out there, and they're probably seeing it, so the connection still does exist.
Yes. So I want you to remember that when you regard to me as the person, it's not me as the person. I am behaving as the school's representative. So
Mm-hmm.
on social media when stuff are posted, I'm using it in the school's
Oh,
voice.
okay,
So I'm
yeah,
talking in the collective we, like we are excited about
that makes
I've
sense.
been, I've been live streaming the yearbook. That's about as much of me that goes out there as when I live stream the yearbook, I'm the one doing the voiceover. So I'm literally babbling for an hour as I page through yearbooks from 1971 to present is what I'm doing for our 50th
That's
anniversary.
cool. I mean, it's still pretty cool though. But you know what? I think that it makes, even though your clarification, I think that makes it almost even more impactful for the students because you get to be the representative or like put out there the representation of the school to them in these posts, which means you're playing a really critical role because other people probably aren't as equipped to be able to do that as you are. Although it probably creates its own sort of challenges too, in that like you're getting to do all this, but you still can't be out there as much as you would like to.
Yeah, so I love my job. I really do. But like, going through parent teacher conferences and having them be virtual and not being able to be there physically on hand to help people because everyone's remote. So I'm trying to tech support everyone that comes into my help room on Zoom, and I'm at the end of the night, if I'll get thank yous in the survey that we pass out, but it's not the same as just seeing people say bye Jack, see you next time, like
Yeah.
it's it it's I miss the people. The community is my focus. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a community person, whether it's a virtual community or a physical community. This happens to be my physical community that I'm used to. My virtual communities, as we are both parts of multiple virtual communities, I'm used to those people being distant and online and having that distance
Mm-hmm.
and being comfortable with that distance. But these people are my peeps, and I can't be there.
It's gotta be rough.
It's my local
I
community.
mean, the fact that you're smiling so much about it means you're taking this probably a lot better than a lot of people feel like they're able to handle it. But I think that's good because I think you are almost again representing a goal that a lot of people want to have, which is you can actually have like I don't want to say an optimism, but a level of like lightheartedness through this because you kind of need to right now. Like if you let yourself be mired too much in what is actually happening, it's gonna keep pulling you back down again. And there's nothing we can do to change the larger problems. So we have to just kind of get through this. And so I'm super happy that you're able to be on the show and like represent this because I think it can help people feel like, oh wow, okay, I can. There is a way for me to feel more optimistic or at least more positive about the stuff that's directly in front of me, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, yes, everything that's happened has been horrible, and there's nothing that's ever going to make up for the fact that we've lost thousands of lives. But we can't dwell on that. We won't we won't grow. We need to grow from this. We are strong enough. We will survive. And we have to put our best feet forward. So, how do we do that? We remain optimistic and we put our ear to the ground. Like, what do I need to work on and what do I need to know? Hopefully, people are being motivated. I can understand that this pandemic has been hurting people negatively. But there are resources and there are people out there willing to help. Like, I'm a big give blood person. So if you are a person who can give blood, I know it's a pandemic, but blood is still needed. Give blood. If you are a person who likes to volunteer or needs a hobby, they're still looking for volunteers, and that can be count as a hobby. You can make friends and help people by making like boxed lunches that go out to the homeless. Like there's places that even though we're in a pandemic are still mobilizing and safely social distancing to accomplish these things. Just like my school is safely open, even though it's education and a lot of education systems haven't got back, but it's people are finding ways of navigating this, keeping everyone safe and accomplishing what they need to accomplish so that you know we can keep moving forward because they're not going to hold back 2 years worth of students because of a
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. It's like the school systems and the funding and that your tax dollars cannot pay for it,
Yeah.
like it just doesn't work that way. So these schools are either going to push out kids who are not prepared, or they're going to figure out a way to prepare them, so let's all work together to figure out how to make the world a better place. I'm also going to say, if you can do anything locally, get involved, like
Mm-hmm.
know who your candidates are, support the good ones, vote,
Yeah.
register to vote. I'm sorry, that's my soapbox. I'll get
No,
off.
no. I'm glad you said that because it's I don't remember which politics podcast I was listening to. I've got a few that I love to listen to, and one of them made a point of saying, a few months ago, all politics are local politics. Like if you brought it up, if it's one thing to look at the national stuff that is happening and be aware of it and all that, and it's easy to get mired in what is happening there, but it's so distant from us that we vote for it like once every 4 years. It's like I
Mhm.
see all this, but it can build up anxiety. Whereas if you can focus on your local stuff, you can have a lot more direct control over the community you actually are a part of, and you can, because of that, it can start to make you feel a little bit more, again, optimistic about the fact that you can actually have a real impact on what's happening around you. You don't have to be so far removed from it. Like local politics is a place you can actually have an impact, and I mean on the real lives of the people in the community that you work with. Not take the politics word out of it. The actual community that you live in, you can have a real impact on that, even as one person, and that's a really
Yeah.
good feeling to have.
Yeah, yeah, especially when there are probably already community organizations that have mobilized to
Mm-hmm.
help your education system reform if right now they're not bringing students in. We have another um, group in our area that did that. School said, no, kids are going to be remote. And the parents said, hell no, you're going to give us the choice. And they mobilized and they made it happen. I will say that I helped that happen by passing an email along to a reporter. Like you do what you can when you can
Mm-hmm.
because it's your community. And also, if you're getting anxiety about stuff that's happening like nowhere near you, you should be getting even more anxiety when you look around your community and you see things like poverty or people not getting the same opportunities
Yeah.
or just there's so much, and it's street to street depending on where you live. So don't turn a blind eye. Look right next door, and you could probably find people to help.
No, that's a fantastic piece of advice for everybody who's watching or just in general. Like, if you find yourself looking, I don't want to say looking away, but looking at the distance or seeing some headline and go, oh man, I wish there was something I could do. You can just take a breath and look at your local community. Just do a quick Google search for the county that you live in or the city you live in, and I'm sure you can start to find resources pretty quickly that,
Mhm.
while they may seem relative to a national spotlight, they may seem small. They're actually the place you can have a real impact, and it doesn't matter what that impact is. Having an impact in some way is helpful, even if it is to just one other person. That's what we need right now. That's what everybody needs right now, is at least that little
Yeah.
bit to help. Because when we all start doing that together, that's where the big difference really comes from.
Yeah, and even if you're still like, "Oh, I'm not gonna leave my house, but I wanna help," there's organizations that work on Zoom, and they'll set you
Mm-hmm.
up where you meet everyone you need to meet, and you email everyone you need to email, and like I'm like a over volunteer. So my recommendation to people who want to start volunteering is look at your calendar and say, "I can give 5 hours of time or 4 hours of time every Tuesday, find an organization that needs help and give them those 4 hours every Tuesday."
Mm-hmm.
If those 4 hours you spend creating a spreadsheet and sending out emails requesting like, you know, X, Y, and Z from happening, like that's 4 hours well spent helping an organization and you didn't leave your house.
That's perfect. Oh, that's awesome. I love the idea of that. Like, I'm lucky enough to work for a company that we have like an entire portal internally that will that people can put volunteer opportunities into, and you can go look at like a marketplace. We can go look for things that we want to give back and go do. But I know not everybody has access to that. I'm very lucky
But
to have that.
but that's because your work has a community and they
Exactly.
have
And they've been
really
very
good
intentional about it too.
technology.
Yeah. Wait, it's technology, yeah, and it's a there's a level of intention. Like they've had a lot of intention. Like they put people aside and say, let's do this. Let's make this a real thing for ourselves because it's important to us to go do. I know I'm lucky in that regard. Not everybody has that access, but it is still out there. It may take a little bit more work to find, but it is definitely out there. The information's available, and you can just give a little bit back, and it can help. It really can. Well,
So
Jax. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna just tell you on something that I see, like in regards to technology and education, because like technology and education didn't always go together. Like you don't send your kid to school and think that you need to sign up on a website, but nowadays that's how education is moving. That parents are now having like usernames and passwords so they can access their kids' information because we're all remote. We're not
Mm-hmm.
separated anymore, and there's still like schools and communities that are struggling because the parents might
Yeah.
not have computers at home or know how to use
Mm-hmm.
computers at home. So to tell them that the only way they can access their kids, education is through this portal, it's like it's hard when you know that there are people struggling that you can't help them because you can't necessarily give them you can't give every person who needs a computer, but you want to make sure people have access, like so it's a struggle for parents, I know, but there is hope as things continue to
Mm-hmm.
move forward.
And
And
it definitely brings up not older, a conversation that has been happening for a while now, but was having a hard time getting through legislature in various places, which is the idea of there's crappy broadband or no broadband in so many places in our country still, and for a long time, all that conversation was relegated to like the geeks and legislatures. Like, why are you so worried about that? Like, yeah, we got enough of it. It's getting better. Like, why? That's how it kind of seemed to a lot of us who would see it. And I think this, you just said it, this situation shines a big, bold spotlight on that. Like, when we need people to be even more connected than they are now because of a variety of reasons, and many of those reasons are because people are not as privileged as other people to come up in a certain way or live in a part of
right,
the country that they're able to access these things because of a variety of reasons. It becomes even more important to make these things more public utility and available to as many people as you can, because look what happens when you don't. Like,
right.
people like us might have access to this, but there's so many more that don't. And what are they supposed to do? That's tough. And it brings, I think, hopefully it starts to bring more of these conversations back up into the forefront. Like, can we get on this and get this thing taken care of so this is not, at
Yeah,
least in this
it
form,
put
isn't a problem again?
it puts the responsibility on the municipals,
Mm-hmm.
like each city is then responsible for providing its entire city with Wi-Fi to a certain degree, just that education can encounter,
Mm-hmm.
can occur. And that's like a really tough thing to do in all communities, and like especially bigger communities, rural communities, communities that are spread out. I know, I remember like 10, 20 years ago, Boston trying to be like the first to do free Wi-Fi. I don't think they made it, but I know they were trying.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Google tried for a couple cities, either in the Bay Area or other parts of the country, a number of years ago, to do like become like a municipal internet provider in that city and like run Google dark fiber into the city to do it. And I think it went someplace for a bit, but then there was competitive problems and legislative problems, and then it ended up going away, I believe. And it's too bad because we need something like that. We need more of that happening. Like you said, municipalities need to become more involved in that process. We can't just rely on private industry to do that for us.
Yeah, has PBS come up with its own Wi-Fi yet?
I don't know.
When okay, we can't put the bunny ears out and get Wi-Fi. Like if
Like,
if
wrap some
if
tinfoil around
only
it, twist it. Maybe if I just turn it this way a little bit, we'd have.
yeah, like if only that were the solution. Like I know that's not the solution, but
It would be
it's
hilarious
something
if that was
along
the
those
solution, though.
lines. It's a new day and age for technology, for education, for connecting with people and communities. It's how are the communities going to connect?
Yeah.
First they need the internet. When I make my videos, that's always the first thing I say is like the first thing you're going to need is a connection to the internet, because the thing is, if they go on their mobile device, it's not necessarily the same as if they're
Hmm.
connecting to Wi-Fi and they have a
Agreed.
computer and they have the tools that they're trying to access.
Yeah, there is somewhat less friction when you have that internet access or Wi-Fi in a laptop or a tablet or something than there is with your phone. Like you can do a lot of it with your mobile device, your phone, but the
Right.
friction level is different between this and the other
Yeah.
thing.
And yeah, the user interface is different. It's like
Go figure.
the coding is different. It's all different, you know.
Exactly. Well, Jax, I know we could go on probably for on this topic for hours, but I just want to say I really appreciate having you on the show. Your perspectives on the education system are just something I haven't considered before. I've tried to learn as much as I can, but there's just always something that myself and others just aren't thinking about. So I really appreciate you being here. Is there anything you want to plug or you want to direct anybody to find more information about you and what you do?
So, although I did talk a lot about education right now, I do fun stuff that's not education, like crafting, singing, like skits. It's a creative world. So basically, this is Studio 9. This is my dressing room and work and crafting station. And you can find me at jaxadeleventura.com. Connect to my Facebook. I have Instagram. I'm on YouTube as Enjoy Jax. And thank you, Jeff, for having me. This has been a trip. Every time I go on someone's show, I'm like, why am I here?
I feel like that's an
But
Abbott and Costello skit. Why am I here? What's happening?
but I always want to do my best. That's the thing. And so when I stumbled at the start, I'm always like, darn it, I know I can do better.
You are being yourself, and that's all that matters. I just appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. Have a great day.
You too. And thank you all again for tuning in to another episode. It's been a lot of fun doing these shows, getting to have new guests with different perspectives. It makes this so much more fulfilling, and I hope you're all taking away from it, the messages that each of these guests have and their perspectives. And in Jax's case, thinking a bit more about your local municipality, where you live, your own community, and how you can get involved to support them. Volunteer where you can, if you are financially able to support them that way too. Just doing anything you can to give back right now, especially because our communities need it more than ever before. Again, thank you so much. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help. And you hit that little bell icon down there. You'll get notified anytime new content goes up. I've got a lot of new shows in the pipes right now. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will talk soon. Bye, everybody.